Empty elevators, shitty hallways. Only $1, split it 4 ways. Credit in the store, needles on the floor. If I had one wish, I wish for more. Nobody.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of How to Beat the Streets podcast.
Let's go.
Today, we got a very special guest in the building, financial literacy guru, Arthur. I could go on and on, but we want to get the show started. So, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for the Bougie Banker.
Hey. Oh, man, that intro was cold.
Good looking, doing my thing.
I was tough.
Teacher, artist, entrepreneur. I'm here trying to learn and educate the whole world, so it's a blessing to have you here.
Thank you.
We behind the scenes at Teach Jam. We just wrapped up Teach Jam. Dope experience. The first time you did your thing.
Yeah.
And we here today wrapping up. How was your experience at Teach Jam?
Man, Teach Jam is amazing. Every time I come, I have one level of expectation and then it just far surpasses that. When I came the first time, I didn't know anything about Teach Jam. And to see the level of passion that the educators have to bring back like this new information to their students, and then to be someone who was asked to pour into the educators that pour into the kids, I was just floored. Came back again, ready to pour in even more energy into the educators, and I'm just grateful. Teach Jam is literally amazing.
That's dope. Do you know the story behind how they chose you to come be a speaker?
Actually, I don't.
I don't either. I sound like I knew.
I think I know. I think I know in part. I know in part.
So
with the traditional model of education, you have people who are teaching within the school system, right? And so with my brand, I teach financial literacy online. And so I think what they did was they said they wanted to have a merger between the two. You got these lit people who are on social media, talking about budgeting, saving, investing, and all these things. And then you have us in the school building who are pouring into these kids. So how can we make a marriage of the two? So I think when they asked me to come in, they were looking to create that synergy, which I really feel is needed because you got that traditional model that's always been there. And then you now have the traditional model validating some of the people who are online who are really making an effort to make a difference.
That's dope. All right. So here on this show, we always get started with a quote. The quote we got for you is, financial literacy begins the process of earning more for what you know and less for what you do. What's that quote mean to you?
Man, when you said you had a quote, I thought you wanted me to give one.
You was ready too.
I was ready because I have a favorite financial literacy quote, but can you run that quote back to me one more time? Yes.
Matter of fact, can we hear your quote?
Yes. Okay, so this quote comes from Robert Kiyosaki and out of his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Mm-hmm. And he says the issue with the subject of money is that it's taught at home and not in the school system. So what can a poor parent teach their child about money? Mm. And when you hear that, you think financially poor, but you can also be poor in financial literacy. So it doesn't matter your economic status. How many people do we have who grew up in well-off homes but were never taught what financial literacy is? So they don't duplicate the environment that they were raised in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit to your introduction to financial literacy. Everybody has different stories on how they, woke up and it's like, you know what? I need to start understanding the money a little bit better. I need to start managing my money a little bit better. So can you tell us a little bit about your story on how you got to that point where it's like, you know what? I got to do something different with this money.
Man, it was 1999.
Here we go.
All right. So this is a very interesting journey to where I've gotten, right? Financial literacy wasn't anything that I ever knew that I needed, but through the journeys of life and the struggles of not being well off with my finances, I learned quickly that I had to change that, right? So, went to school, went to college, undergrad, criminal justice, was a correctional officer for some time. Then, I ended up becoming a stay-at-home mom. And the reason why that happened was while I was a correctional officer, an inmate fell on my stomach.
Wow.
So, we had our structure, but if y'all know, okay, bills be billing, okay? So the daycare that we wanted our daughter to go to, we couldn't afford. And that's almost like paying rent or a mortgage. So I was like, you know what? Can't afford for her to go, so why not just work there? I was making $7.25 an hour with a degree.
Wow.
And I said, man, you know what? I did not go to school to be making this type of money. I thought I was going to be making more now that I had this degree. So I'm watching what the owners are doing. And I'm like, oh, I can pick this up. I can do this. So I ended up taking classes on the weekend. Again, y'all, it still took a level of education. It just wasn't with my degree, right? So then I went and got my certification, started watching children during the week, became a full in-home daycare. That business didn't go well. crashed and burnt out. Then later on, boom, started a gym, right?
Wow, that's different.
Right, because I was a natural athlete, right? Okay, so people would look at me after I give birth to my kids and they say, well, how do you get back in shape so fast? So I said, oh, there's an opportunity here. So why don't I just train women? So I ended up getting my my personal training certification. Then eventually I opened up a women's only gym with childcare. And unfortunately, during that process, you know, everything was going good, man. 1,700 square foot building. I had 7 employees.
Wow.
I was great at the hustle. I was horrible at the management. Right.
And that happens.
And it's a story for a lot of people, because how many of y'all have started side hustles and the side hustles boom, but you go and you take that money and you put it in avenues that aren't actually bringing you wealth, right? Or bringing down the amount of debt that you have. And so one day I was headed home from the gym. Older gentleman ran a red light, T-boned me. I was in neck brace for 6 months. I had 16 spinal injections. I couldn't work or work out for a year. Everything that I built up, or so I thought that I built up, I watched all of my bank accounts bleed out into the negative, closed out in the negative. The only place I could get a bank account was in a grocery store. Wow. You know, they have the grocery store kiosk. No regular bank would take me. Wow. So that process was crazy, because that was where I began my financial literacy journey, was being broke. It took me losing everything to realize that I really need to shift some things personally. So I had to understand my relationship with money. I had to create some boundaries. I had to get on a budget. And then from there, I was studying, like, all right, what is financial literacy? Like, how do I save? How do I invest? How do I do these things? And that is where I started to build those portfolios and change my life with my finances. But I was still hustling. When I was able to work, I was working 2 jobs. I worked overnight doing FedEx security. I worked selling life insurance, and I worked at the front desk of a hotel.
Oh, you don't play?
Nah, but I have kids. Mm-hmm. So what I ended up doing was, I was like, I still need stability in my schedule. So my homegirl was like, have you ever thought about being a banker? I became a banker. It was amazing. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I lost my job. But by the time I lost my job,
due to the pandemic, like, what was the?
Yeah, so COVID broke out, and bankers were considered essential employees. So my manager, you know, she called me in. I'm thinking we're short staffed. She just needs help setting up some stuff. I go in, she slides me this big stack of paper. I don't even know what it means, because I've never been fired before. So she's like, you know, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we have to let some people go. And she let go of 3 bankers in my branch, thousands of bankers company wide.
Wow.
But what I was able to do was, I recognized that I had a deep passion for what I was doing. I was changing people's lives at the bank, not from what was required of me from the bank, but because I was so broke at one point in time that I saw myself in the people who sat with me. Mm-hmm. So I helped them build budgets. And at that point, they were like coming and sitting at my desk every time they got paid, and I'm like helping them allocate their funds, and they're watching them from having all the red in their bank accounts to now they have savings. Now they have money that they can invest. And so when I lost my job, I was like, I'm gonna keep this moving. Like, I'm creating an impact. So that whole financial literacy journey for me really came out of a position where I reached a point in my life where what I was doing wasn't working, and I needed to shift some things internally for myself that then presented itself externally within my financial status.
Wow. I mean, your story, that's one, it sounds like a story of perseverance also.
Thank you.
And I wanted to figure out, like, you know, for the audience out there, when, you know, seeing all the accounts in red, the businesses failing, that's around the time where a lot of people just, you know, give up, and they just, you know, stop thinking creatively, or stop thinking, you know, using their creative side, and just maybe go into a job that they don't want to do and stay there, or maybe just fall into, you know, the show is named How to Beat the Streets, so they just fall into having fun and just doing whatever. You know, what did it take for you to overcome those challenges and keep pushing, keep working, keep grinding?
Man, you know, I would definitely have to say faith and fear, to be honest. Like, you know, a lot of us, something happens and then we're like, it didn't work out. I'm afraid to try again, because I'm afraid of what people might say, or I'm afraid that I won't be able to actually do it. So it's easier for me to say I'm not going to do it. When I failed, what it did for me was it opened up a level of exposure that I didn't have before. Because if I could fail at it, then the opportunity to be successful is still there. I just need to not do what didn't work the first time again. So that spirit of being an entrepreneur, it never left me, even when I tried to pretend it wasn't there. Like, I tried my hardest, and I would still be a banker. They didn't let me go. I know I would, because I love my job. Well, good job, good benefits. But it took a lot of faith to keep going past the losses, past people's opinions, past things that didn't work out, past the financial setbacks. It took a lot, but I felt internally that there was a level of impact that I was called to. I just had to figure out how I was going to actually create the impact.
Wow. Just thinking about, how you was able to keep pushing. Did you have any like mentors? Did you have any books, podcasts? Like when it was time for you to do the education, who did you turn to? Where did you go to start to learn, everything that you need to learn to start moving forward and also to teach other people?
Yeah. So, oddly enough, your first mentors are always going to be your parents or the environment in which you grew up. So if that mentorship was not a positive experience for you, then you got to alter what that looks like for you. Now, my mom, she worked super hard. My dad, they worked hard, but when I became an adult and I told myself I was good and grown and I found out what good and grown actually meant.
Bills.
Right. Those bills. I started to pour into, first it was YouTube videos, becoming part of a company. I tried the whole network marketing thing at one point in time. Now, I know a lot of people have not a lot of negative things to say about it, but I didn't know anything about personal development until I was in a network marketing company, because they started talking about having a vision and they started talking about planning and these type of things. And I was like, what is this stuff? This information is crazy to me. So I couldn't afford to be in the rooms. Like the ticket prices, I couldn't afford that stuff. So I would say, I'll volunteer. And so some of the mentors that I had came from me just getting my foot in the door and saying, how can I help you? What need do you have that I can fulfill? So whether it was picking stuff up off the floor or, whatever, I was to Bob Proctor conferences. David Imonitier, a wonderful mentor in that regard, super successful African-American man. You guys want to look him up. And then after I started to grow in the space, I started finding mentors within my niche, right? So I guys don't know if you know who Anthony O'Neill is, amazing individual. Daniel Gamble, the sniper investor, amazing individual. But if you don't have access to the people that you would like to have access to, always start with books. They hide a lot of information in there because they know that we won't go to them. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is an amazing book to start with, especially as a mentor if you're looking to change your finances.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Now, when you think about your journey, right?
Yeah.
What was that defining moment when you knew, like, wow, this thing is working out? Like, was it, we're going to talk about your book in a second, but was it a book? Was it, that first couple of clients when you was teaching financial literacy? Like, where was your first win when you was like, I'm back, y'all. It's working
here.
out.
I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. So I'll tell you what happened. After I lost my job, I was so passionate about creating that impact that I didn't know I was going to be here at that point in time, right? I lost my job. I would hop on Clubhouse back when Clubhouse was popping, and I would play a financial literacy game. So I was paying people $2 for every question they got right within the game. And I would bring 10 people to stage at a time. Now, my rooms would grow to like 1,200 or so people, right? And then I started paying attention to some of the other financial people in the space, and I'm looking at their clubhouses, and I'm like, wait a minute. People like me. Like, they like learning from me. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like, all right. So then I started to direct people over to my Instagram, because at that time, when I started my Instagram, like 2 years ago, I think I had 100 followers. Grateful that I have over 100,000, 120,000 now.
Like 100 Bougie Banker pages out there.
It's
too,
a lot of fake ones, but I'm verified now.
I wanted to mention that real quick because you said Instagram. I was like, the other day I was trying to look at your Instagram.
Yeah.
And it was like, maybe, I'm not even lying, like 25 Bougie Bankers. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, it was crazy. The reason why there's so many fake pages is because when you go on my page, there's not the social media hype that you would think you would see with other people who have brands in the finance space. Everybody wants to show this luxury lifestyle.
Yeah.
A lot of them people are not living the lifestyle they present to live. But to go back to what we were talking about, the moment for me where I was like, okay, I'm here and this is where I'm supposed to be, is when I started seeing the amount of women that were being impacted.
Dope.
I didn't know that my story of all the things that I was trying to just operate through, because I was in survival mode, I didn't know that was going to be something that would impact people the way that it did. So when people saw me, they said, this is a genuine person who has had problems just like me, and they've been able to make it out of it, and they don't present themselves in this lifestyle that a lot of people do. They just keep it how it is. So a lot of people started coming to me and they started having their lives change because of that. So when I started seeing that was the impact I was creating, I said, how do I double down on this and how do I expand that impact?
That's dope. That's dope. Now, we need a quick Bougie Banker hack.
Okay.
So you doing phenomenal things on social media. How can someone, just starting out, they trying to get their brand out there, how can they build a following or some type of buzz on social media?
I'm so glad you asked that question.
People want to know.
I'm so glad. I actually have a class that's about to come out that's teaching people on how to do this proper branding and marketing on social media. I never sought out to be a social media influencer, right? The brand deals are great, by the way, y'all. When you do these things I'm about to tell y'all, the brand deals, they are fantastic. The thing that people think is that they have to present something that people are attracted to. So then you see people out there saying, look at me on this trip. Look at me buying these things. Look at all of this stuff. Is that really your lifestyle? And how is you presenting that actually helping somebody? So this is what you need to do. Identify the niche that you're in, whatever that is, whether you bake something, whether you make something, whether you're in the financial literacy space like I am, and provide value. That's literally what people are missing.
Put that on the screen. Provide value.
Provide value. So what you can do is you can say, all right, let me look up some relevant articles online that have to deal with what my focus is. You can look up the article, read it, because people already are not going to be reading. So go ahead and just summarize that bad boy up for them in a little quick video, right? And then give them a call to action on something that you know that you can effectively help them with. That is how you grow yourself. What I find is that people are so busy selling that we're not giving the value that people are looking for. And then you're wondering why your brand isn't growing. If you naturally are a resource, people will come to you. And that is how you can build your brand. And just be fly, be cute, be you, be sassy, be bougie, be whatever it is that you want to be out there, and do it to the best of your ability, but provide value and keep that number one.
Dope. That was for y'all.
That's it, y'all. That's what y'all got to do.
Now, you are an amazing author and you have a dope book out there. Can you give us the title of the book and what we will learn when we read this book?
All right, cool. So my book is called Living Bougie and Balanced. It's a self-discovery book. And so, again, I'm in the financial literacy space, right? So when I was in my journey, the issue that I realized is it didn't matter how many times I started my budget. I would go 5 steps forward and I would take like 7 steps back. And I'd be like, okay, this is not working for me. So I need to switch something up. I realized that after watching the YouTube videos, downloading the templates, attending the workshops and all this stuff, that it just was not working for me. So I had to say, okay, well, this stuff is working for everybody else, but it's not working for me. Then the problem has to be me. So I did a lot of accountability, a lot of deep work around that. And I said, okay, well, excuse me. I did a lot of accountability. I did a lot of deep work around that. And I said, all right, well, if creating this financial plan is not helping me, then there's got to be a reason why it's not helping me. So where did my personal relationship with money start? I already told you guys, remember, your first mentor is your environment. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to that and I said, okay, well, what was my mom's relationship with money? What was my dad's relationship with money? How did they operate around it? And how were my habits around money developed? What were the triggers that I have around money? And then how can I create healthy boundaries around those triggers? So I took myself through a very deep process. So by the time I actually got back to the budget for the 11th time, once I actually got back to it, I was able to stick to it. I was able to put money aside for saving and investing and all this. Because you know what? I might be deviating for a second, but I do need to want to talk about this. People say that it's a money problem. Like, I just need to make more money. But I guarantee you, if you comb through the last 3 months of your statements, you will find the money that you've been looking for to say that you would just save, just pay down debt, just invest. But the reason why you're not doing that is because you're not paying attention to what your habits are. So you're impulsively spending on a bunch of stuff. And that's the reason why you're going broke. It's your bougie that's causing you to be broke, not the bills. I'm going to be real.
That's true, though.
Because who's going to work a job that can't pay their basic bills? Right? You're going to do what you got to do to pay your basic bills, but you're not paying attention to those extra expenses.
So what do we do to learn, like, what our bad habits are and, just find ways to budget better?
Yeah. The first thing you got to do is I promise you, work on the foundation. You hear a lot of people say work on yourself, because if you yourself have only been able to accomplish so much with where you are, it's because you've limited your growth, right? So you got to do the self-work. With finance, what that looks like is asking yourself those deep-rooted questions and understanding your financial foundation. So my book is phenomenal for that. It's not just you reading. You are literally asking yourself questions, writing down your responses, and being guided through those responses throughout your journey. And then now once you have that together and you understand that, then you can move forward and invest in the markets. Then you can move forward and save and do all these things. But more importantly, you know, I'm in my 30s. I have 3 kids. They're 15, 10, and 7. My main focus is, what is it that I'm pouring into them? So you're creating this foundation for you, but don't forget, if you have children, you got some people coming up behind you. Mm-hmm. So you also got to pour into them at the same time.
Now, speaking of children, how young can you start teaching kids about financial literacy?
You can start teaching them just like how they start to learn their wordings. You can start teaching them as soon as they're able to start forming sentences. You're able to teach them that. Like, there's games that you can play with your kids, sight words that you can play with your kids. You know, my youngest, she's 7. I do the same thing with her that I do with my 15-year-old, and we have this game. So if they want something, you know, you a parent, you go and buy your kids stuff. Mm-hmm. But let's say there's something they really want, and it doesn't cost a couple of dollars. I say, okay, well, you can earn money towards this thing. So in order to earn money towards this thing, what I want you to do is I want you to go read a financial literacy book, or I want you to go read a personal development book. Because all the time we try to pour this stuff into our kids, but they're not interested. And they're not interested because they don't have any skin in the game. Mm-hmm. So I print the picture out, and I have something that they put the money in as they read and they earn money towards these things. Number one, they value the thing the most now because they've earned it, right? And number two, I'm getting what I want out of them because I'm instilling something in them and they're getting their stuff. So you can start teaching financial literacy to your kids at a very early age and just add and layer onto it. When you hear Daniel Gamble's interview, he's going to talk to you about introducing sight words to your children because it's very important. We introduce everything else to them. Why can they quote lyrics to a song, but they don't know basic structures around things that they're going to need fundamentally throughout their life?
Woo. Now, this question right here is for the fellas out there, you know, in the dating world. It's still financial literacy tied in. So, what's the difference between being financially literate and being cheap? I feel like a lot of it get real confusing out there, you know, because you got guys out there trying to be smart with their money, budgeting, not spending a lot on one woman, owning a Honda versus the foreign car, not bowling out in the club. But often those guys is called cheap. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what's the difference between being cheap and being financial literate?
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, so being financially literate means that you have an understanding of the principles of having financial wellness, right? So if someone is like, I sound so old, someone trying to court me, right? Somebody trying to like talk to me or whatever, and they're saying that, you know, all right, well, for this date, we're going to go do something that may not cost a lot of money. But they're like, you know, in conversation, because I hope y'all are getting to know one another. In conversation, you hear them saying that they're paying down debt. Oh, that's sexy to me. You're paying down debt? I like that.
So
okay,
you gotta be honest.
Let's go. Or you're focused on a goal, right? And you're focused on a goal within your finances. So I get if the dating structure shifts because you have financial goals. But being cheap is saying, all right, baby. All right, baby. We gonna go to the Applebee's, but I'm about to go do this stuff with my homeboys that might cost more money. Mm-hmm. Oh, so you're being cheap to me, but you value this other thing more. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it. As long as you're goal focused and goal oriented, the whole thing about being financial literate, I think a lot of people attach that to being broke. I think people attach a budget to being broke. Right. But some of the most wealthiest people have budgets. That's why they have accountants. They're telling them how much money they can spend. You know, you tell them you got a budget, boy, I'm going to cover a couple of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you telling me you got a budget. That's crazy to me. That's awesome.
So it sounds like the real ones are going to respect it. But you kind of got to be in that financial literacy
space. You got to be in that space because a lot of people look at it and they be like, what you mean you got a budget? Why can't you do this? You know, I'm a queen. I deserve. Okay, well, sis, if you plan on growing with this person, you're going to have to take a look and say, okay, is he doing something that's going to position us long term to be okay? If this person is really trying to get with me and talk with me, how is his conversations? Are his conversations talking like we're going to be good 10 years from now? So this is somebody I can start, really starting to plan a future with? Or is his conversations only centered around video games and his homeboys?
All right. Thank you for answering that.
How did you feel about that? Because you're a man.
No, that's why I asked, because I feel like it's like I'm someone who like to budget, and my sister probably laughing when she sees this because she's the one that used to always call me cheap. But now later on, I'm like, look, I got this stuff, I got that, and everything's together. So I asked her that, like, look, all these years, you like, yo, you so cheap. But it's like, nah, I'm trying to get myself right financially. So I feel like that was a good answer. But to me, it sounded like you just got to be honest.
You gotta, because
a lot of dudes don't want to. Who wants to lead like that? You got this beautiful woman in front of you. The first thing you don't want to think about is, yo, I'm on a budget, because that might sound like, Here's
the thing, though. Within your budget, you can budget for the nice dates. Like, and nice dates can be more than just financial. Like, you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a quality date.
Right.
A picnic in a park can be quality. It really can. A picnic in a park can be quality because it's quality time. And it could be a romantic experience. Some candles from the dollar store. You got you a nice little home cooked meal or what have you. It can be a really nice experience. It don't always have to be coming out the bank every single time you take somebody out. But if you have a budget, your budget can say, all right, I'm planning to take you to this 5-star restaurant. This is how much I got to put aside in order to do that. So now when you go get anything you want off the menu, I budgeted for that.
All right.
You know what I mean? Okay, opposed to I'm always trying to impress this person, man. You know what, baby? Okay, you can get a steak. I'm just going to give me some croutons. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's tough.
All right. Now, check this out. If we was watching a movie, about your life, and I feel like your life could be a movie.
Oh, wow.
What would be the 3 key takeaways from the Bougie Banker story?
Nobody's ever asked me that question. All right. Okay. I think the 3 key takeaways that people can take away from my life is I'm never giving up, ever. I've always looked at anything that's never worked out for me as an opportunity for something else. And I'm really kind. Like, there's a difference between being nice and being kind. Kind is a genuine space where, like, you do things genuinely out of the love of your heart for other people. So if there's something that I've had exposure to, I try my best to allow somebody else to have that exposure. Or if there's an opportunity or something like that, I'm not like, oh, that's great, and then leave you where you are and then keep it pushing. Those are really my 3 things. I really focus on just keeping it pushing. Don't dwell in the space. And how can I be a source of value or love of kindness to somebody else?
So like you have a very motivational movie. I'm ready to cry right now with that. But
It is.
now my final question for you is, if I was that family member who didn't have enough knowledge on financial literacy, but I've been working hard, I got $20,000 saved, and you're the go-to in our family for financial literacy. So I'm like, hey, cuzzo, I got this $20,000. I want to give it to you. Help me, multiply this.
Okay,
what would you do for me?
I have to lead with this. All right, y'all, this is not financial advice, okay? This is purely, just a suggestion. For legal reasons, I have to say that. But I would say this. That comes up often. I would never take somebody's money, even though if they try to give it to me. Because I don't want to be held legally responsible for whatever's going on. Everything's sweet and good while we hee and ha-ha. Unless something happens to that $20,000, we're gonna be in court. But what I would say is, if you want to put the money in a position to grow, right, because you want to build wealth, number 1, check your current financial picture. Because if you have debt that needs to be paid off, a portion of that definitely needs to go to helping you get ahead with that. Outside of that, if you are just like, your pockets are burning, you just want to spend, you're looking at some new furniture and a vacation, and you're like, man, I don't want to touch this money, but I kind of want to touch it, I would suggest you locking it away from yourself until you're able to make a strategic decision around that money. So maybe that looks like a CD, and a CD is a certificate of deposit. Okay. And so what it'll do is it'll say, hey, you put this money in this CD for 6 months or 12 months, and will be your return at the end of that period. So now in a sense, you're investing because you put the money away and he does come back with a return. But if you're like, no, I want to see more money than that, I want more growth. Okay. Well, then you have a couple of options. You can invest into stocks. You can invest into crypto. You can do day trading, options trading. These options are the most highlighted on social media, but they are super risky. And if you have no knowledge of the market, I would strongly discourage you from getting into that space, because you're going to treat it like the lottery, and it's going to treat you like a gambler. It's going to treat you just like that. You're going to lose it 9 times out of 10. So then let's look at a more low risk, safer, quote unquote, model. That would be index funds. Index funds, you really don't need any knowledge of the market. You just need to know that, like, they mix up some of the top performing companies so that if I solely invested in Amazon, and Amazon just for some reason tanked the next day. My whole investments aren't at risk. I've got Microsoft holding it up, Google holding it up, these other companies who are holding it up. So traditionally, the S&P 500, which is an index fund, has a return of about 10% per year. If we're looking at inflation, which inflation is like what's going on with the economy. When y'all go to the grocery store and y'all see y'all eggs are super high, that's inflation. When, you got the recession, you got post-pandemic effects, that type of stuff. Inflation is currently over 5%, right? So if any model you put your money into those accounts and the rate of return is not over 5%, then you're essentially losing money. So check out index funds. They're amazing. A lot of popular ones is like QQQ. And so what'll happen is you put that money in there, then you look at what you can invest over time, and it'll just compound on itself, and you're building wealth at a low risk, but essentially a high return because it's outpacing the rate of inflation. So that's a lot of information to unpack, but y'all follow me. I'd love to give y'all some more information.
Yeah, they gonna appreciate that.
I hope so.
Well, this is the part of the show where we want to thank you for one, coming out to Teach Jam, 2, hopping on the pod and sharing all of this information, your story. Keep doing your thing. I see a lot of great things in your future. I see you changing a lot of young women, old women all around the world, men, everyone,
everybody.
Just keep doing your thing. We appreciate you for stopping by the show. Let everybody know where they can follow you. You got master classes, you got books. Let them know all that stuff.
Oh, man, I would love to. Y'all, thank y'all so much for coming and hanging out with me on How to Beat the Streets. So my name is the Bougie Banker. You can Google me. I can say that now. Literally pop up everywhere. And so follow me on Instagram, primarily because I give a lot of gems all the time on budgeting, saving, and investing.
It's a fact.
I have a community. I have courses. I have classes. I have my book. And you can also meet with me one-on-one with a consultation, but it's super affordable. I'm here to help the people, not hurt the people.
And there you have it. How to Beat the Streets, featuring the Bougie Banker.